So I want to go a little deeper into this position of no problem. And I want you to help me go from the place of awakeness to show me how to look at this from that place. I don't feel any sense of problem personally. And I don't feel any sense of problem with death. But when you speak of no problem, where the glitch is for me is in looking at certain things in the world.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And probably the most tender place, I can accept natural disasters. That's just a life. And I can accept that humans are natural disasters too.
Yes.
And that's kind of what happens a lot of the time, is a human explodes.
Yes.
But I think the place that's most tender for me is when children are being harmed in the world, either by being victims of war or violence. And if they don't survive, maybe that's not a problem, because then at least they're free. But when they survive, there's such pain and such and such a tendency to reproduce that pain.
Relive, reproduce.
Right. So that you can say, if we go and destroy the lives of 1,000 children in Iraq, many of them are going to grow up with that trauma that's going to affect the world, them and the world. And this has, of course, always gone on. So I see that it's part of human condition at this stage. But I don't know where to stand with that in terms of no problem, without making up some kind of a rationalization.
Right, which would be ridiculous. And of course, if somebody's in suffering, it's totally ridiculous and sort of unsensitive to just simply walk up to them and go, hey, you're suffering. Guess what? It's not a problem.
Right.
Right, because it's really important to understand also that this notion, no problem, this isn't a philosophy, right? It's not a statement like this statement is true, that there isn't a problem, or that there is a problem. The truth can't, as you know, cannot be communicated in words. This is simply a reference to an inner experience, the inner experience of being undivided, right? So let's say we see something, or maybe some of us have experienced something horrendous that happens, or you look in the world, or you turn on the news, or you know your neighbor or something, and say with a child, and something very, very difficult or terrible happens, and there's great suffering from that, right? Now it would be ridiculous for us to say that there's not great suffering that happened and that may continue to happen or is happening. When I say no problem, I mean what happens when we see that, when we can face it absolutely and totally directly. You see, we're not this is the opposite of turning away and saying there's no problem. That's not it at all. It's just the opposite. We turn and see directly, right? And our heart may be broken when we turn directly, right? Our heart may just really break open, or just simply break. And when we can see directly, and yet from that place, that state of consciousness, which is in no resistance, because that's what the no problem means, no resistance. It's only a thought that goes into resistance. Now, we're not talking about, like I said, feeling brokenhearted or having a very deep response of compassion or love. I'm not saying that it's not the opposite of that at all. You see, from consciousness itself, you see how it doesn't go into division, even when it sees the most horrendous thing, even though that horrendous thing may break its heart. But there's not even the slightest turning away at all into should or shouldn't or anything. And then you see how we stay directly in contact with what is?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, you're speaking of being completely present with whatever feeling arises in me as the witnessing of this experience.
Yes, and it might be absolutely horrendous.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It might be that. And can we stay completely 100% right there? Because as soon as we move away, even a tiny, tiny bit, then there's that sense, you feel the division. The beginnings of the slightest division.
Because you throw it into the mind.
Right.
And then the mind starts the arguments about why it shouldn't be happening.
Right.
And you're breaking the experience of self, which is simply the response to what's happening.
That's right. And I imagine, as you well know, as I know, people that have gone through very difficult things in childhood and whatnot, and everybody has to some extent, but some people much more than others, that as long as they are holding their own past as something that shouldn't happen, shouldn't have happened, in this sense of, if it's held with regret, judgment, or blame, you know, they don't get past it. They stay there. No matter what they do, they never get past it if they hold it that way. Even though it seems like a total insult to finally let go of regret and judgment and blame, not only for yourself, but for everything and everybody involved. And you see, when people can move past that, regret and judgment and blame, it starts to release. Right? And this is why I think for us meaning you and me and all of us, when we hold somebody in our heart, in our consciousness, as this is a problem, even say a child's been abused, and we look at the child, or we're with the child, and somewhere deep in our consciousness, we're thinking that this is a problem. This shouldn't have happened. You poor, unfortunate thing. And you see, we're transmitting that. And so we're colluding with the very thing that's going to keep them in a deep state of suffering forever. And yet, if we can be totally open to the pain of it, to the trauma of it, to the difficulty of it, and yet not go into that place of regret and judgment and blame, then we're communicating silently something very different. Right? It doesn't mean we disengage and just go, it's not a problem. Just the opposite. We stay deeply engaged.
It's like a power that's in witnessing.
Yes. Affectionate witnessing. Right. Because as soon as we move into that state of consciousness where we go into any sort of blame, judgment, that is the energy that's sustaining the problem. And it doesn't matter from that point what we do, we have become the very force that's creating the suffering. We have started to collude with it.
Well, we're back into a mind frame of some sort.
Right.
Yeah.
And
one
you notice
that we can justify, but it's still
exactly
a division.
And suffering by
separation.
its nature, an illusion by its nature is sticky, isn't it? It likes company. Right?
Yeah.
Suffering and illusion craves company. And we actually can feel like we're coming very close when we enter into the company of those illusory thoughts. When we come into the company of blame and the company of judgment. It actually, have you noticed? You agree with somebody about their blame and their judgment and you feel close. It's sticky, right?
Yeah.
You know, if you two just have oh, I agree with that. You notice that there's no stickiness? There's no real closeness. It's just, oh, you agree, I agree. Old phrase in Zen that enlightened action, or just enlightenment, but enlightened action leaves no trace. It's not sticky. It's clean.
Yeah. Because it's not pulling into mind.
It's not pulling into mind, right? And of course, the emotions that then mind creates. Because it's mind that keeps recreating traumatizing emotions.
Yeah. And triggers it in others. I mean, it's like that wanting company for it.
Right.
Yeah. And so it sort of
Right.
spreads like an infection or something.
Right. And I'm sure you've met, just as I have met, people with absolutely, almost unbelievably horrendous pasts. You know, things that you, if someone wrote it in a book, no one would ever believe it.
Yeah.
And I've met people like that, and they've come to a place and where they come to that state of consciousness which does not hold what happened with any regret, any judgment, any blame. It just disappears for them when they enter into the truth.
Yeah.
And they're free of it. It doesn't mean they forgot what happened, or they're denying what happened, or that they say that it wasn't painful. No denial, but as soon as they get into that place, their mind is no longer holding it problematically.
Mm-hmm.
And then their body stops holding it problematically, right?
Yeah.
And I think we often don't understand the tremendous force that we have, just our state of consciousness as we're just moving through the world. And there's human beings looking at things, and of course we're bombarded by horrendous things all the time, much less the little bits of suffering all around us. And people don't realize that their reaction to that, to be in a state of consciousness that's mind generated, is actually throwing into the collective consciousness the same energy, the energy of division, in the guise of help. As if I think that that's absolutely awful and it should have never happened, as if that's compassion and that it actually helps anybody.
Yeah.
And so I think for all of us, of course, there's a very fine line, isn't there? Because if we're open, we're very open to suffering, to the suffering of the world, suffering of others, right?
Yeah.
Suffering of children and adults and everything. And that can pierce us. And when we are pierced, it's just possible that in that piercing, in that brokenheartedness, that it just might go slightly into mind. And then there's not just piercing, there's that beginning of that sense of horror. And that's resistance.
I had this sense, this is very helpful, thank you, a sense that by holding steady as the pain or whatever it is, the motion moves through, in a way you're clearing out that little speck of the minefield.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's sort of like when Buddha said, if it happens to me, it happens to everyone. It's like it's like being a clearing space in some way, rather than multiplying it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because that's the sense that comes from our own deepest sense of being, radiates this sense of all is well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It just comes from us. Even though a lot of things are just an absolute disaster, all is well. All is perfectly well. And anybody that's ever really been awake has in their own way expressed, all is well, all is so well, you can't even imagine how well it is. Even though it's just a god-awful disaster, it's so well.
Yeah.
And we think that's just sort of some pie-in-the-sky nonsense. But it's also not, it's simply a state of consciousness which does not go into division. It doesn't go into division against itself in heaven, and it doesn't go into division against itself in hell. And as a very wise Buddhist teacher many years ago said to me, she said, it's easy to be enlightened. It's a whole other thing in heaven. It's a whole other thing to be enlightened in hell. When we're in the midst of either our own difficulty or we see someone else's difficulty, it's just sort of hellish suffering, hellish situations.
Yeah.
And when we can be open to that and also simultaneously open to all as well, not one or the other, but both.
Well, because for the awakeness, that's always the position anyway. It's like it's just happy to be existing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't care what's happening.
And that's the wild thing when you realize it actually was happy to experience everything I experienced.
Yeah. Yeah.
The rotten just as much as the good. It's kind of shocking, isn't it? The first time you saw it?
Yeah. This is really helpful. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And I want to share something that happened today that fits in nicely with what you've been talking about. I was doing a group this afternoon, and one of the women was talking about judgment, letting go of judgment, finally being in a place like that. And somehow the idea of the judgment day came up, and we all decided it needs to be the non-judgment day, and then they'd have it right.
Ah, yeah.
You know? I mean, really, because that's where the liberation is. It's
Right.
the non-judgment day has finally arrived.
Right. Yeah. We've personified this judgment thing, and we've put it in the mind of God.
Yeah.
At the end of time, God's going to judge me. That's just your own projection.
Yeah. If we really believed it was just the opposite, how different Christianity and all of the rest of us would be.
Right. Yeah. When you die, the only one that's going to judge you is you.
Thank you very
You're
much.
welcome. It's good to see you. That's true. Wouldn't that be a non-judgment day? That's why if I ever get a center, I want to have confessionals, man. I'm going to have confessionals, and I'm going to get one of those collars. And the only thing you're going to be able to confess is the truth of your being. It's not going to be one of those confessionals for all the stupid things you've done, because I already know. I've done dumb things, you've done dumb things, let's get over it and let's just get to what's really true. Because that's what frees us, and that's what gets us to stop doing so many dumb things. You see? Not because we're trying not to do them. Have you ever realized the harder you try not to do something, the more often you do it? It's a kind of a law, isn't it? Right? When we realize our goodness, then it transforms our behavior. But until we've realized our goodness, not much can change. So that'll be my confessional. Come in and confess who you really are.